Welcome to Our Republic. This is Kaya Shivers. Today we're talking to attorney Jaaye Person Lynn of Person Lynn Law Offices based in Los Angeles. How are you, attorney Person Lynn?
I'm doing okay today. Just getting back from Atlanta for a wedding I went to and got some work to do and heading out to DC for Howard Law's 150th next weekend. So,
I want to know before we get into Nipsey Hussle, what is the mood in Los Angeles?
well, Big Boy in the Morning had a post that said, asked if you'd ever walked in someone's home after they died. Said that's how all of LA feels. And I would concur with that. I would agree. It's a very somber feeling. But I'd also say that the unity march that took place, the meetings that have been taking place, are giving people hope. So that's a wonderful thing. But overall, it is a somber feeling. And people are excited for the services, not excited as you would be for a concert or a game, but excited to be able to express their condolences, be able to have the grand showing, the grand send off that someone like Nipsey Hussle deserves.
Me living on the East Coast and not being on the West Coast in Los Angeles have been attempting to describe the admiration and the rally around Nipsey Hussle and his tragic passing. Can you give more insight on just LA as a space and what this has done?
Well, there's never really been a figure that I can recall like Nipsey Hussle from LA previously. Um, when I think back to leaders from Los Angeles, a lot of them, I believe the Bunchy Carters, John Huggins, Geronimo Pratts, I believe some of them may have been born here, but to have a young man that was born here, raised here, to have a young man that is part African from the most ancient region in the world that we know civilizations come from on one side, and a descendant of American slavery on the other side, um, to be really in a gang and represent that gang in a way that was not derogatory to the other gangs. And we saw that for before with Snoop um, and some others, but having all of that wrapped up in one, having somebody that's a leader amongst his people, uh, not just in the music industry but outside of it, all the entrepreneurial aspect of it in a way that people could touch. The clothing store is different than maybe having vitamin water, which was a great entrepreneurial endeavor for 50 Cent, but we didn't necessarily feel connected to 50 the way we felt connected to Nipsey, and not just Nipsey, but the All Money In movement. The fact that we're not wasting money, we're keeping our money, we're recycling our dollars, we're circulating our dollars within our community, we're building up our own community. I'm just not aware of who else is like that. So that's why it's such an impact. And then listening to his music, that was, I think his music is a close number two on why people love him, but it's who he was. It's the fact that he was a Grammy nominated artist who you would see in and around his neighborhood by himself, with his jewelry or without. That made him very much relatable. And that's what we loved about him. That's what I loved about him. And not only that he was relatable, he was knowledgeable and was using his knowledge, his experience to better his community, better all of our communities, really.
I really find it very striking that you use the term, that's why I loved him. Often, when we talk about Black men, Black male masculinity, or Black men flexing their masculinity, saying I love, and particularly I love you about a man. Okay, so I want to get to Nipsey Hussle and attorney person Lynn. Can you tell me your personal connection with him?
I first really became I heard of Nipsey Hussle like back in 2009, but didn't really listen to his music. Uh, Came across him at a party at the Regency West. I went with
Regency West. Explain
yeah,
the Regency West for those who do not know. Where is it located?
yeah. Regency West is located in Leimert Park, Los Angeles, which is uh, Leimert Park's basically like the west side of South Central Los Angeles. It's not the furthest west. It's right off of Crenshaw, 1 block, 2 blocks off of Crenshaw, east of Crenshaw, right in Leimert Park. And Leimert Park Village is like the heart of West Side Black LA. There's drum circles when there's a Malcolm X festival or other community festivals. They're held in Leimert Park. There's a lot of black businesses in Leimert Park and the surrounding area. Uh, Over the last few decades has been majority black and it's still majority black, though gentrification is coming in and changing things in that regard. But that's what it is. And the Regency West is a hall that everything from birthday parties, comedy shows, plays. It's just a place that people go to. So this night, somebody from the '60s was having a party, and I just happened to go in. And like I said, I'm from Inglewood, and this was about 2009, so I'm about 26, 25. So it was a few faces looking like, "Why the hell are you here?" But I was there with a couple of my boys and ran into a few more. And I saw Nipsey on stage performing, and everybody in the Regency West knew the words to the song, and I just never even heard it before. So I could tell that people felt him, but I still felt like anybody coming out banging his particular hood that hard just probably ain't gonna go too far. Uh, Fast forward to All Star Weekend 2010, DJ Fats, RIP, handed me the marathon mixtape at LA Live when I was up there. I was still studying for the bar, but I took that weekend off to enjoy the All Star Weekend festivities. And man, when he handed me that mixtape, that was July, like early part of July, and it was in my CD player straight until August, just 6 straight months. I didn't listen to any other CD and seldom listened to the radio. And like I said, I was studying for the bar, so that mindset that he had on the marathon just keep going. Not only was I studying for the bar, it was my sixth time, so the bar exam was a marathon for me.
Mm.
So just hearing that those repeated messages of stay on your marathon, keep grinding, keep working. It's things gonna fall through, things gonna happen for you. You gonna make them happen. Just reinforce me with that focus and that confidence. And I would tell people all the time since I listened to the marathon, like just all my work product, everything just improved because that was the spirit that he was presenting and he was sharing through his music. So then shortly after that, I ran into him and out on South Beach, just real quick, tapped him up, told him I appreciate his music, hollered at BH, who's I used to go to church with, so that's where I knew him from. And then would just see him at various places throughout the years, but most recently ran into him at court where I was representing someone he was there for, and we were able to keep him out of custody for a little while longer. And it was a very intimate setting. It was afternoon, so there was no other audience in court. It was just Nipsey, his attorney, myself, and the gentleman I was representing that day on behalf of another attorney.
Mm.
And we had the circle up. We came with the strategy. I presented the strategy, and it was dope. I got to remind him about how his music influenced me. Chop it up a little bit about bringing a legal activism side to the work that he was doing, and it was all good. And I was excited, feeling like, okay, now we got this connection. We're gonna keep going. One, it make you want to do your job better because Nipsey just has such a a regal presence about him that you didn't want him to be able to check your file and then something not be right, you would be embarrassed because this dude's been so solid for so long. So he inspired that on a lot of people. He inspired that on me directly. But definitely that regal spirit that he knew who he was, but not in a way that he. I don't think he felt he's better than anybody. He just had these certain standards that he lived by, and anybody that was willing to live by those standards was welcome around him, and that's really why it hurt me so much because I could tell I was in the presence of greatness more so than before. And this was like the night after the Grammys. Um, but just how he moved, how he spoke, how he thought was just on a higher level, something I could really appreciate.
So could you give me just an example of his thought process and how he communicated it to, the folk around him, or even to you, so people could have a glimpse into to his mind?
Well, that's a beautiful thing about his music. His music was really about that, whether he's saying that, you got to change things up, do things a little different. Don't be afraid to open yourself up to new things. Stay true to who you are. Uh, it was one. It's funny. My favorite um, song on the marathon mixtape. It's like a bonus track. It's like this is my moment. It starts. I The first few times I heard it, I didn't even. I heard the album, the mixtape. I didn't listen to it because I just started it back over. Because there's like a minute break between the last song and when this song starts. But in that song, he has a lyric, and I don't claim to know it word for word. I can try and pull it up, but it's something like it says, "I don't want your love. That's not why I make music. Um, I owe myself. I told myself back then that I would do this, and I don't want no help. Just let me suffer through this.
Mm,
This night, the world would not know Jesus Christ if there was never Judas." And then he goes on to say that this knife that's in my back will be the truth that introduced us. And it's funny, like he said this 10 years before he died, right? And there's a bunch of people right now. The gunshots that killed him was basically the knife in the back he was talking about. And that's what introduced him to a whole lot more people that may have taken them 5, 10, 20 more years to figure out who he is. So just very prophetic in that regard.
mm,
Um, Prolific is what he had tattooed on his face. And when I was listening to the marathon mixtape, he was talking about, yeah, this is my 55,000 leap. So that just meant he would hear a beat, spit on it, and put it out, just put it out. So 10 years ago, he was on 55,000. And I much higher marathon. So just that kind of work ethic um, is ultimate. Have everything you need. Right now, you don't need anybody to give you anything. I'm not asking for anything. This is just what it is, and we gonna be on this marathon until it's over with. And that is and the fact that it's funny on that album. He has another verse about saying he sees why people get money and leaves the hood. And then he says, I'm not saying I condone it. I'm just saying it's hard. And it's like, when you hear those kind of lyrics, 10 years ago, it was just a dope lyric. And now, you see exactly how hard it is
mm,
to be such uh, uh, an approachable king, such a reachable king. But at the same time, if that's not who he was,
mm.
then it wouldn't be what it is today. So I don't think he was wrong for that at all. I understand the people that love him still want him to be here, wishes he wasn't in the hood that day. But the fact of the matter is that's why people loved him. And just real quick, I want to get that lyric. Um, it says, toss a nigga some work, that nigga running off. Then leave these niggas to starve. They say you uninvolved. I see why niggas get money now and wander off. Not saying that I condone, I'm just saying it's fucking hard. And so, he talked about that, how you help somebody, now they running off on you. They got their little money, now they gone. But if you don't help them, then the hood is saying you switched up. And he's saying, even despite that, despite him already having those experiences 10 years ago, he still never ran off, still never moved away. And like I say, that's really why people loved him because that's the easy thing. You'd have made a few million now, you legit, and your money is legit and stacked up pyramid style
Mm.
that he could have just done investments for the rest of his life and never seen Slauson Avenue again. But he was a real king, and leaders lead from the front, and that's what he did.
One of the circulating conversations that I heard are people who have a certain platform, celebrity, right, or some level of means, who come from communities like Nips, right,
Yeah,
saying, well, this is the reason why I don't even come to the hood, or you can't help anybody like this. What is something that knowing, I would like to hear two perspectives. What do you think Nip's response would have been if he were alive? And then secondly, what is your thoughts on that?
um, I think how Nipsey not really the person that you can speak for in that regard, and that's another thing people loved. He never really spoke for others. But what Jaaye Person Lynn would imagine Nipsey would say in that regard, and I'm sure there's some clips out there, so where he can say where he's answered this question. But I'd imagine it would be something in the vein of, that's I understand it. I understand why you do that. That's not my thing though. I'm choosing to still be here. But I can't say you wrong. But despite that, I'm choosing to be here. And so
Mm.
that's what I feel like his answer would be.
So let's talk about, now that Nip is about to be buried, and there's just talks about who he was, who he is, what he meant. What do you think are the major aspects of the legacy he left?
Major aspect number one is go find you a legal way to get some money. And get some money, and you'll feel better about yourself. I think that's the main, and that's not a materialistic type thing. That's more of a nation building aspect. How we gonna build a nation and don't nobody have nothing? We don't have two bricks to put together to even try and build a foundation for a house. So how we gonna build a nation? So go out and find a way. I mean, I think he even say and has said, whether it's legal or illegal, just do it. Obviously, understand if it's illegal and you get caught, you're gonna have to sit down for that time. But definitely, it's that legal means of making money. Um, uh, go do that and start searching for that. And why that's so important is because all these young folks out here flocking, which LA street lingo for burglarizing homes, robbing, selling drugs. A lot of time and energy is put into this. That if that same time and energy by these same talented people would have been put into something that you can't be sent to prison for, uh, then they'll start finding them. like that to that level. Uh, and still, I think a lot of Pac's wilding was for show and building up the fan base so he can ultimately achieve the goals that he said he wanted to do. But the thing is, Nipsey had the benefit of having Tupac as an example and actually got to fulfill those things. He didn't just talk about them; he actually did them. And
Mm.
not to say Pac only talked about it; he was moving in that direction too. He was just taken out too soon to really get some institutions in play. Uh, Nipsey, on the other hand, his institutions are in play. The marathon store is going to survive. The restaurants are going to survive. The music is going to survive. The whole movement, the All Money in movement, is going to survive. And that's, what Pac was torn down before he could build something that is going to be able to live and last beyond him, besides his music, besides his art.
So you talked about how now that Nip is dead, that he has created more people listening to his music. Looking at his clips on YouTube, what type of conversations has this sparked that you have been a part of?
Well, the main conversations are that I've heard. You hear all the time somebody always saying, "Man, we got to stop the bullshit." But people taking steps to stop the bullshit, people meeting, people doing the shows of solidarity, like the march. It's a short march, but it was solidarity. It was Bloods, Crips, Essays, Nation of Islam, you know, all these groups coming together showing solidarity for the right reasons. That's the conversation. That's what I feel like it's on right now. Is that people are nobody wants to disrespect the legacy. And if we get back to the BS we were on a week ago, a week and a half ago, then that's disrespecting the legacy. So there's a lot of folks that the conversations I've heard is, man, we can't let Nip die in vain. It can't happen, man. We got to stop this BS. We got to build up our community. All right, what businesses we gonna start? We got to sit down. We got to figure this out. We got to understand it's not gonna be overnight. Nip, if Nipsey get killed in 2012, it's not the same. If he get killed in 2015, it's not the same. It's he built this from the ground up, and so it's the kind of thing that's just waking a lot of people up. This is something you can't ignore. A lot of other things you can ignore. You can't ignore this stuff.
One of the things that has been threading through a lot of the conversations that I've been having is a code, right?
Yeah.
CODE.
Mm-hmm.
And this idea that particularly the Black community does not have one, does not have like some kind of, rubric or measure or standard of how we coexist, exist, live, treat each other, think about it. And I've been on a lot of just different, like looking at a lot of different talks and conversations around NIP. And in one of them, there was a particular person who kept commenting about Black people don't want to live with each other, Black people don't want to work together, Black people don't support each other, blah 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 blah. And there was a lot of back and forth with this individual. My response was is that we don't know how. There are just a lot of people who just don't know or even understand the fundamental things of what it means to exist, to support, to love, to respect. So when you say things like carry on his legacy, respect Nip, respect each other from your purview, and even what it is that you do in terms of building this code that we're talking about, because you mentioned it in terms of like our Black leaders must live in the community. To me, that's a code, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Like what
And
are some,
and
well, I'm sorry, go ahead.
that brings up a great point. Um, Being that Nipsey did follow a code that we hadn't seen in a long time. Most of the people we know of that follow the code are like gangsters that are in prison for a long time and they never snitched, and that's why they're in prison for a long time, and that's what following the code got them. Whereas here's a situation where following the code, Nipsey never snitched on nobody. He never, did nothing. I mean, while he was in his life committing crime, I'm sure, did some stuff that people would not forgive him for. But once he came up out of that, he was solid all the way around. One of one is the term that a lot of people are using out here to describe him. And the reason that's important is because you can't have a nation without no rules. I now can understand the mindset of a 30-something-year-old man who was full-fledged in the movement in the 60s and early 70s, and then in the 80s he just was an employee somewhere, just still had the thoughts but wasn't working, because it's traumatizing, right? It's in the 60s, man. They had, if you were in the movement and you were fighting, then you hear, I mean, there was a lot of people that died, but I'm talking about the leaders that were, setting the standards. You done heard about Medgar, then you done heard about Kennedy, I mean, not Kennedy, not as, a leader in the black community, but just somebody that was beloved by a lot of black people. Then you get Malcolm, then you get Robert Kennedy, then you get Dr. King, uh, you know, and then we move over to the 70s. You get Fred Hampton. You think about the why we don't know how to live together. Everybody that seemed like they were teaching us the right way, either dead, in prison, or expatriates living outside of the U.S. So that's a big deal that we got somebody that as long as we got him, even though it was only 33 years, we got him as long as we got him to inspire people to live by a code, which is, just simple. Keep your word, work hard, uh, stay true to yourself and your community, and don't put nobody over your community, not even yourself. Um,
But what does
eh,
that look like, right? So those are concepts, right? I mean, they're rules, but it's a lot of conceptualizing.
um, and so it's and so when relating all of that to Nipsey, it's like, here's a man that was a full-fledged man, like nobody ever questioned that about him, but his woman, that he was giving us that example too, in that relationship, right? It was never like, you my woman, I'm making the money, sit your ass in the back. It's like, you want to act, if you ain't got no part, come be in my video. Come play the star role in my mini movie that I'm making. Do whatever I can to help you uplift your career and what you want to do and achieve all of your dreams. And I think that's a huge part to all of this. Is like, he shows you how to be a man with a strong woman and not be intimidated by it, be supportive of it. And in turn, she showed how to be a strong woman, fully supporting your man. And I don't think that aspect has been a part of the conversation as much as it should be, but that's a huge part on, just men and women relations and how it works. And, you know,
And in a blended family, they were in a
it
blended family,
that
right?
was my next
Brought
point.
a child, she brought a child, right?
Yeah,
Okay.
and that was my next point. And whenever I heard him in the interview talking about her and what she wanted to do, it was, her children was all part of it. It was never like, oh, you had a baby by this nigga, so you can't never be full-fledged in my life. That wasn't it. It was, I'm taking you as you.
Okay, we could go a million and one time, a million and one hours.
Yeah,
Give me your
yeah.
final thoughts on Nipsey Hussle as we are. I think this is perhaps like 2 weeks into him or being laid to rest.
Nah,
Or
we yeah, we
is it
about It'll be
He
two
just
weeks
finished the
next
first
Sunday.
next Sunday. Yeah. So
So we're a little over a week. We're 8 days in. Um, Thursday will be about 11 days. So final thoughts is that, it hurts. It hurts. I was inconsolable for a couple days. Um, but now, it's when you really part of this process of dealing with it has been listening to a lot of Nipsey Hussle music.
mm,
So it's reminded us that this life is a marathon. And
mm,
he said a million times he gonna run this marathon until it's over with, and he did every day. And he got to his victory lap. That's a beautiful thing that I'm happy to see is that he got the victory lap. I'm telling you, man, victory lap coming soon. I think they said that on the marathon mixtape, and that was 2009, 2010, and the victory lap came out in 2018. So um, it that even that example, just stay the course. Don't come out with your album until it can come out in the way that you wanted to do it. And of course, you want to come out with your album while you young in your 20s and doing, what Pac and Snoop did, but he stayed that course
mm,
and did it his way. Um, and it took a long time, but it planned on taking a long time because it was a marathon. And I don't think it's lost on us that an East African is talking about a marathon because that's definitely their thing. When we talking about Ethiopia, Kenya, and all of that, they definitely on that when we talking about a marathon. But that's what it is, and that's seeing the unity that's taking place, and it's still new, and I believe it's here to stay. I
mm,
believe it is because the shock that people from the other side can when we talking about some blood and Crip stuff, or even Crip and Crip, because man, imagine you from here when they said the 8 trays was out there on Crenshaw and Slauson.
oh,
That's
really?
bigger than the Bloods. For those that know,
Yeah, yeah. Wow.
that's you now.
Wow.
And how many lives have been lost to that beef
Mm-hmm.
over whatever it was over,
Mm,
But if I think this one right here, the way it happened, the visuals, man, seeing how messed up it was, is like, you know what? We're tired of it, man. It's if this brother that was doing everything right, he ain't disrespecting nobody. How you a full fledged gang member repping your gang on your Grammy nominated album and you ain't disrespecting nobody? That's
mm,
huge for gang bang for the gang
mm,
culture. Like you don't have to diss another hood to represent yours. So just getting that, I think it's real. I think it's here to stay. I know I'm gonna do my part, and I know a lot of people are dedicated to doing their part, and we gonna see this era. One day we gonna talk about it like we talk about the civil rights era. It's gonna be that era when niggas was just lost. But this woke us up. As tragic as it is, I have no doubt that if Nip knew he would be working his death would cause uh, family members, family gang members from Inglewood and 8 Trey gangsters to unite on Crenshaw and Slauson with a gang of 60s. He would have gladly given his life for that.
mm,
So I I'm inspired by it. The pain is real, and I still don't, I still wish it didn't take that. But since we got to deal with life as it is, the final thoughts is that his life was worth it. In those 33 years, um, you know, it was worth it, and he inspired us and he continues to inspire, and our community, the whole black community. And this is a global figure. We got to remember that he's African. You talk to his dad, he got an accent and all of that. Um, this is a global figure from South Los Angeles, though, and so it lets us know how far we could take it, and that we never have to change who we are. We never have to. We got to change the things we do, but
Mm.
we don't have to change who we are. And that's my final thoughts on Nip, man. I really respect that dude and love that dude for everything he did, and I'm looking forward to his King send off on Thursday.
I appreciate that, brother. And let's push the line together, move this forward. I thank you, Attorney Jaaye Person Lynn. I would like to know just very quickly if anybody is in need of your legal services, how can we get in contact with you?
Oh man, you can definitely find me. Uh, my little website, man. Man, I forget. I don't really use it. I know I need to. I got to get into the digital age. I know Nipsey would be looking at me like, "Cuz, how you really trying to do this? You ain't got no." All right, man. I get get the digital footprint together. But in the meantime, definitely on Facebook, Jaaye Person Lynn. Half my cases start as Facebook or Instagram messages. Instagram Lincoln Lawyer LA. And if you just want to find where I'm at and the attorneys I deal with, thefightforjustice.com. That's the website for Attorney Jovan Blacknell. We're all in the same office. We all work together. So I'll probably just give me a little Fight for Justice email or something. But yeah, I'm definitely reachable. And I can be contacted 424-261-2075 if anybody's listening in California and needs some legal representation. And whatever your issue is, I mainly do criminal defense, civil rights, and a little personal injury. But whatever your issue is, I know an attorney that can help you. And that's whether you want to keep it black or not. We got attorneys that'll be able to help you. And whether they black or not, these people have been vetted to be able to do a good job for the people that we send their way.
All right, thank you.